Welcome, everyone. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's event, exploring the powerful intersection of AI and cybersecurity. Presenting today's topic is Dr. James Stanger. He is the Chief Technology Evangelist of CompTIA. He has 20 years of experience in IT, working as a security consultant, security analyst, and penetration tester. Having a vast knowledge of cybersecurity, James has developed various certification programs and designed curricula for university and learning center education programs. He's also a recognized writer of courses on the topics of security, network, administration, web development, Linux, and many more. James is also an award-winning author, blogger, and presenter. He's written titles for O'Reilly Media, McGraw-Hill, Prentice Hall, IBM Wiley, and others. He's also a regular contributor to various technical journals, including Admin Magazine, Linux, and more. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We do have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. And today's presentation is from the security practice area. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. You can also access a variety of marketing assets, such as the free training and blogs, by clicking on the available event handout. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session will cover the learnings about the basic artificial intelligence concepts and will provide an in-depth analysis of the past, present, and future applications of AI/ML in the cybersecurity landscape. And now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today, through the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. And now I'd like to pass this over to our trainer to present today's topic. Hey, James, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, welcome everybody. Let's talk about artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. And we're going to talk a bit about the past, the present, and the future. My name is James. I'm James Stanger, and I'm really happy to be here. And special thanks to Netcom Learning for bringing me on in. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist at an organization called CompTIA. Now, at CompTIA, we're a member-driven organization, and we focus on education. My job at CompTIA is to get the word out about CompTIA, but more importantly, to talk to CIOs, hiring managers, CISOs about the important elements of technology, including cybersecurity. So I'm happy to be talking with you today. I've done a lot of work, not only creating programs, but doing and implementing security solutions for clients around the world. So I've done work in this, and it's been fun talking to people about artificial intelligence. Let's get a little deeper into things, because I think it's really important to focus on artificial intelligence and machine learning as a solution to a problem. That's the first thing. What problem is it solving? Well, let's talk about the layers and the foundations of artificial intelligence, because there are many layers to this discussion. I think if we talk about those first, then we can get from the past into the future with a little bit more sense. Here's what I mean. We live, folks, in a point of the Industrial Revolution. Now, the first Industrial Revolution involved the harnessing of steam and water power and mechanization, trains, ships, right? Steamships. That's the first Industrial Revolution. The second focused on mass manufacturing using electricity, the assembly line. We made cars. That's kind of the avatar for the cars. And that's my old Land Cruiser that I keep trying to fix up. The third Industrial Revolution focused on the PC. That's the avatar. That's the icon, right? The information age, space, automation, right? And we live, I suppose, in certain parts of the world in the third Industrial Revolution, maybe a little earlier or whatever, but really we're moved into the fourth Industrial Revolution, folks. And that's where artificial intelligence takes over. We've got the cloud, and we have systems and communicating with each other. Yeah, human to machine communication, and artificial intelligence that helps us increase our productivity. That's where we are. It's not coming. It's here already. So we're in the third to fourth Industrial Revolution. So we've moved from the world of a person named Isambard Kingdom Brunel, that's his name, Brunel, who brought us the steam engine in many ways. It brought us so many incredible inventions. Mr. Toyota there, who brought us Toyota, for example. You have Linus Torvalds here, who is one of the icons for the Industrial Revolution. Well, in the fourth Industrial Revolution, there's so many icons to think about, including Manjula Talreja, that's her name. She helped bring us a lot of our understanding of the cloud and artificial intelligence. The reason I'm bringing you this history, folks, is because with artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, we're implementing 5 major elements that have been around a long time. Democratization of IT. Back in the day, it was really hard to get into a Unix system or a Linux system, right? I mean, nowadays, it's on our phones. Okay, we have that everywhere. That means that technology is becoming everywhere. We have miniaturization. Check out this little picture of my dad. He was about 90 years old when he took this picture. When he just started work in the 1950s and 40s, this technology was what voice technology was back in the day. With those 3 machines, you could record, you could listen to a message, and then you could use that little green, that big green device there to actually erase the cylinders. These cylinders it was kind of fun. These cylinders were wax cylinders, and that's what recorded the voice. Think of how we've gone to miniaturization, where we now have voice being captured in devices that are a fraction of the size. We have virtualization, where we have moved from installed into the cloud. We have automation, so many tools. We have cognitive science, imitation of what it means to interact with human beings and what a brain, what a mind is like. So these are 5 elements that have been with us, though, much longer than you realize. They've been with us for 300 years. Let me give you a quick example. Here's something. I had a tree fall in my yard, right? So I used some old 19th century into 20th century technologies to cut up that tree, right? I used a chainsaw, and I was like, hey, look at that. I'm so advanced. So I cut it up into wood. Well, my dad taught me something. He said, James, you need to use more automation. You need to change your ways and get modern. And here's my dad, who had just had a stroke, right? So that's why he has that cane there. And with one arm, he was able to split many, many cords of wood that day, right? Many more than I was able to do in a couple of days. He showed me something. I'm always learning from him. Well, what does this mean? Folks, we need to not be like John Henry. John Henry is a mythical person who basically got in a competition. You could Google this. He got into a competition with a steam engine and he won, right? He won the competition. He could drill through everything, but he died at the end because he worked too hard. The lesson being, don't fight the machines, don't fight AI, work with it. And let me tell you a really quick story. If you drill something, to this day, if you drill something, no matter how large or how small, you have to take that drill and take it out and clean it off, because those bits of metal or stone that are in that drill, they will make it so that drill will not work anymore, that your 20th century or 21st century technology won't work anymore. What do you need? You need human intervention to make lateral movement on that little drill bit, right? So that you can get rid of all that little stuff that binds the drill and keep working. What does that have to do with anything? Think of it this way. We need to work with machines so that they do the hard work, right? But then we, as human beings, apply the thinking and the lateral movement and the new thinking that makes it possible to use AI. So let me move on here and define our terms. When it comes to artificial intelligence, I would argue that artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, it's basically a form of automation. We know what automation is. We've been using programs for decades, right? For a long time. Scripts and applications and services. Nowadays, we use Docker and Kubernetes to orchestrate these things. But artificial intelligence is part of that automation. Now, what's the difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning? Here's a really lame joke. What programming language do you use for machine learning? You Google it, right? People will say Python or maybe Java or Golang or whatever. Well, that's fine. What programming language do you use for artificial intelligence? Well, the answer is PowerPoint slides. And I'm being sarcastic here, right? Because I want to move away from the typical things that you hear about AI and get deeper into really understanding what it is. Artificial intelligence, folks, is the ability of a machine to mimic human behavior. Machine learning is applied intelligence and allows an application to improve and learn from experience. So a learning machine, right, has the ability to go, okay, I see that input, and then it can make improvements by itself. Deep learning is basically applied machine learning. It allows complex algorithms and what they call neural networks to continually train a model. So you've got AI, machine learning, and deep learning working together. Another things that I want to talk about today. Everybody talks about ChatGPT or Bard, and that's fine. Predictive and generative AI. Those are two different versions of AI. Just want you to understand that when you're messing around with ChatGPT, you are messing around with, but there are so many more sophisticated uses of this, of artificial intelligence that have been around for a long time. But I just wanted to talk about predictive AI. It takes kind of an analog process and automates it, and with minimal human oversight, can anticipate and improve itself. It can predict things, right? Generative AI basically makes it possible to create new content in a human-sounding way. That's why ChatGPT seems to have captured so many people's imaginations. I'm a little impatient with that, but that's fine. Here's the thing. When it comes to artificial intelligence in cybersecurity, you have to train your artificial intelligence. It's like training a child, right? A child and AI both require training. They need the right input and constant input and correction. Otherwise, you end up with problems, issues with bias, for example. And we've seen examples of racial bias, of gender bias, and all sorts of issues. Or in terms of cybersecurity, we've seen programs that were first created not for cybersecurity, but for a completely different reason. Financial input, for example, but then they take that and apply it to cybersecurity. So if it has a bias for finance and it's now in a cybersecurity world, you can run into issues. But there are all sorts of issues that we've seen where bias against gender, for example, against women or whatever. But my point is we need people to make sure that they program and train artificial intelligence properly. Well, let's talk about some present uses of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And let's get practical, shall we? Okay, so here is me Googling myself, or I should say chatting myself, ChatGPTing myself, and I'm asking some questions. And I said, I asked some questions. And I said, "Who is James Stanger?" Right, and it said that, "Hey, this is James Stanger. Look, he's the chief technology evangelist," and they got some of that right. Right. The problem is, ChatGPT informed me that I did not have a doctorate, which I do, and it informed me that I had a bachelor's in computer science from Washington University. And I'm going, well, no, I don't. Right. My point is not that, oh, ChatGPT is bad. I think the question becomes, from a practical perspective, we use artificial intelligence to get us to a certain level of knowledge. And then as human beings, we have to apply that lateral thought, kind of like shaking off the stuff, the stones or the stone or the metal from a drill so that we can get deeper into our topic. So it's that level of human interaction that's very impossible. Because I asked, hey, are you talking about James Stanger? And it says, well, no, it doesn't have a PhD. Well, actually, I do. And I don't have anything from the CEH folks, right? But for some reason, it was giving me all of the accolades for a master's of business administration. I've worked with Capella University, but I don't have an MBA from them. What we need to realize, folks, is we need to tame what you're looking at. You're looking at the naive Bayes algorithm. That's something that existed since the 17th century. A man named Bayes came up with it. This algorithm has been used for decades. It's still being used in ChatGPT, but it's also, and there's Mr. Bayes right there, it's being used in spam filters and has been for years. So next time you use a spam filter or you're happy that you didn't get a bunch of garbage through your email, you can thank a 17th century academic philosopher for that. Right. I just want to point out that with this diagram, and I'm not going to get into what spam filters are, but I just want to show you this is an example that's been around for a long time. So artificial intelligence, didn't just show up yesterday. It didn't just show, it's not going to show up 3 to 5 years from now. We've been using it in really cool ways. But there are root cause problems with artificial intelligence and security and machine learning that I think we need to be worried about. And I couldn't help but take this picture. I was in Japan. I went to a shrine. And as I went up to the shrine, there was this beautiful staircase partly made out of roots. And I couldn't help but think of, root cause analysis when I saw this picture. Well, let me get a little deeper into it. So there are a few problems that have to do with artificial intelligence that kind of keep us from using it productively. First of all, there's an old saying, I think you've heard it, it's called garbage in and garbage out, meaning with computing, and I don't care if it's with AI or whatever, if you put something bad into it that just doesn't work too well, you're probably going to get something that doesn't work too well out of it. Okay, that's just the reality. Just because artificial intelligence and machine learning has the ability to improve, it really doesn't have the ability to fix serious problems. We still need human beings for that, okay? And we probably always will on some level. The key with artificial intelligence is it takes care of maybe 80% of repetitive work. Think about that. If we can get rid of that, think of how productive we can be if 80% of our time gets freed up, or a large percentage of our time gets freed up so that we can focus on the unique problems. That's the promise right now of artificial intelligence. It's pretty cool. Now, we have to remember where this information comes from. Problems with bias come from bringing in information that just has some sort of implicit problem in it, that excludes something, that excludes a data set with security. Well, we couldn't use machine learning to find anything or to improve on it because the data wasn't there in the first place. Or to go back to an example having to do with race, class, or gender, the idea that if you use data to train machine learning that doesn't include very important information about a certain race or whatever, you have problems with bias. Well, too often, I think we treat technology as what I call a mystery box. It's just this kind of box that you can't look into, and you just assume that technology is there to help us, and it just works, what I say, auto-magically. Well, that's a problem. Our job as cybersecurity professionals is not to just assume things too much. We have to get a little deeper into these things. Okay, so don't just assume that technology is there to and just works. You have to get deeper into it. You can't leave it to somebody else either. More and more, we're going to realize that it's up to us to make sure that we meet those challenges. And don't just think that because something is said smoothly that it actually makes sense. Okay, just because some sort of interface comes up, wow, look at that! It came up with something that really makes so much sense. Be ready to kind of deconstruct, that's a fancy word, to kind of investigate and kind of sift through and identify, are there problems with this data? That's how you're going to work with AI, not in an adversarial way, but in an evaluative way. Artificial intelligence is very good at going through and finding brute force things. By that, by finding things that can be repeated, and it can say, hey, I can handle that for you, right? Well, that's great. That frees up our time. It right now is not really good at lateral thinking or thinking in terms of, okay, here's what might be missing. It's getting better, but still not there yet. What you can provide in the face of AI and machine learning in terms of machine learning is, don't try to become the next version of that mythical figure, John Henry, who died, competing with a machine, right? We don't need to compete with machine language. We need to work with it, right? He failed because he thought he could do it himself and go against it. No, you work with the machine. All right. So I'd like to talk about cybersecurity in terms of the last mile. And by the last mile, that's an old telephony term, really, in some ways, from the telephone world. The idea of a connection made, we lay all of this telephone line, we lay all this wonderful fiber optics, et cetera, but it's the last mile from the street to the home that has kind of been the problem. It's the same way with artificial intelligence. Right? Artificial intelligence leads us to so many really good jumping off points. It gives us good data, but we as human beings need to provide that last mile. That's where we provide our unique value. Not in trying to do things faster than a computer, for gosh sakes. That's not a good idea. So it's all about what some people will call orthogonal thoughts, a fancy word for saying, wow, I just never thought of that differently before. I never thought of those situations. But with artificial intelligence as our coworker, that artificial intelligence input can bring us a lot of information that we can then bring in unique thoughts. Okay, industry strength, artificial intelligence in the future. Let's talk about some solutions that really exist in real time, okay? So first, consider the term generative AI instead of ChatGPT, right? Or even predictive AI, but consider how you can use artificial intelligence to automate automation. Now, I realize you're probably thinking, oh, that doesn't make any sense, but actually it does. We've been using automative technology for a long time. For example, if you don't know about it, there's a technology called Ansible, okay? Ansible is basically where you can write up a series of scripts, okay? And you can write up in just in a few lines, you can launch 1,000 Linux systems in the cloud, or you can update those systems, or you can configure those systems to become web servers. And just with a few lines, a few dozen lines, you can create entire networks, entire series of computers, and very sophisticated services. What's neat about this, though, is it allows you as a it allows you as a systems administrator or even a security administrator to control living infrastructure, right? Using code, infrastructure as code. It's really kind of cool. Well, imagine, and that's an automation technology, right? I'm just using a simple script, and it allows me to reach a lot of heights. It allows me to launch a lot of systems. Well, imagine if you could combine that tool, Ansible, which has been around for a long time. It's really cool, but it's been around for a long time. Imagine if we could combine that with machine learning, so that not only does Ansible take care of repetitive tasks, but the machine learning then starts learning and starts investigating parameters and saying, well, based on what you've done, have you thought, machine learning would say, have you thought about maybe changing the time of the updates that you do? Because I noticed that there are several systems that went down and we got a lot of complaints from end users, right? Well, now we can change that time to a different time. Machine learning is capable of making those kinds of suggestions or pointing you to certain levels. So that's what I mean by automating automation. See, this way you get more information and you can be more creative. So you can use Kubernetes, for example, in far more creative ways than just the typical, okay, I'm going to make sure that a few things are, that I orchestrate a few things. This way you're engaging in what's called the heuristic process. And that's a fancy way of saying the Socratic method. There's a person named Socrates, lived a long time ago. And his whole idea was, if you engage in a conversation with a fellow human being, you can all talk with each other and come to a better conclusion. You can reach something creative or something important. That's the same way that's happening more and more with artificial intelligence. For example, talking recently with a lady named Agatha Osakwe. She works for the Nigerian Communications Division, and she communicates. She teaches her help desk workers to communicate well, but they also use machine learning engine, right? And this machine learning engine does a couple of things. It kind of puts their workers into what I call a cybersecurity finishing school. What I'm talking about here is that these workers are very smart. They know how to do good technical support, but they need help in cybersecurity. They need help to understand and get reminders. And these reminders I call not soft skills, sorry. These reminders I call guardrails. And that's a term that I stole from several people who do security over the last year. They use the term guardrails. My workers need guardrails. With help desk folks, they often are kind of near or at the first line of defense. They tend to be the ones that see ransomware happening or some sort of condition that's like, that's more than just a normal, problem in a server or a problem with a user. Maybe there's an attack happening. With cybersecurity, then artificial intelligence has been used. She was using this basically as a way to augment the decision-making ability of her help desk workers. So that's happening right now around the world. This is an example from Africa. Another example. I was talking with some folks in Japan at the Ministry of Defense, also with some people recently in the United Kingdom for the Royal Air Force. And they was talking about the military intelligence. And as much as they could talk to me about it, what they did is they told me of a few examples about how there's so much, media that's generated, exabytes of media created, right? All the time. When I say media, I'm talking about images, for example, right? I'm talking about video. Well, there are a lot of threat actors out there that embed bad content into that media. And by bad content, I'm talking about stealing information about bases, and they embed it using something called steganography inside of images. Or they just transmit images of things they shouldn't be taking pictures of. This is a picture of the Tokyo sky tree in Tokyo. I was perfectly okay to take that picture, but imagine if I embedded something in that picture. How would somebody find that? Now you could say, well, James, there's scanning tools that will go in and do that. But more and more, the military uses for signal intelligence and to discover problems such as steganography and various patterns and even vulnerabilities. They use a lot of image searching. And that's live right now. And that image searching is AI enabled. So that's another example of how artificial intelligence is used. Here's a specific example. Remember earlier I was talking about automating automation? Well, Project Wisdom is a Red Hat project that they're working on. They have the most insights into the Ansible platform because they kind of own that open source platform, as it were. They own the development of it. And they're the ones that said, well, you know what we can do is we can use our considerable, Red Hat is owned by IBM. And so they basically use Big Blue or Project Blue. They use artificial intelligence to combine it with Ansible playbooks. Remember I was talking to you about how you can create some scripts that can launch 1,000 servers or whatever. They're called playbooks. Well, imagine being able to do that. Well, these are live projects. It's not like these are projects that are, hey, maybe one day we can. It's happening right now. And it's really neat to see what I call this kind of industrial strength kind of automation taking place, or industrial strength use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. I was talking with a person I know over at AstraZeneca. I'm sure you've heard of AstraZeneca before. You can check it out. They kind of see themselves as a tech company more than just a pharmaceutical company, but and they have global offices around the world. And Robert, this friend of mine, Robert Venier, he's the global head of cloud and infrastructure. And I asked him, I said, okay, what are you doing with AI? And he kind of went, geez, James, what aren't we doing with AI? And I said, okay, give me a few examples. And he said, first of all, we have a ton of both research and development and also commercial efforts. And I said, well, what do you mean by commercial efforts? And he specifically said, we're using artificial intelligence from a sales perspective to go through data and sift out information so that what normally would take somebody a month of analyzing spreadsheets and things like that can be done in a few days. And I said, Well, what about it from a cybersecurity perspective? We said over and above sales, we're using a lot of artificial intelligence to go through the data, the Security Operations Center data, SOC data. We're talking about data that could include log files from your endpoints. By endpoints, I'm talking about your workstations or your mobile phone or an operational technology device. An operational technology device, for example, such as a conveyor belt used in manufacturing, for example, or a robot that's used in so many robots are used now, have been used for decades in the automotive industry. So AstraZeneca uses automation to sift through the cybersecurity threat intelligence data that is generated by so many different things, all of the log files from firewalls, intrusion detection, from various edge network devices. By edge network, I'm talking about devices that are very close to where you're working, at the edge of the network, not in the data center or in the cloud really, but at the edge. And they take all of that, and where a human being, again, would take a considerable period of time to sift through and find, oh, it looks like there's somebody who is mapping out a network, or here's a specific group of threat actors that we know, and they seem to have moved from one restaurant to another, or they seem to be now attacking a different hotel chain there. Artificial intelligence is very good at identifying the patterns and the behaviors of people. And by behaviors, I'm talking about how a threat attacker, for example, would code a particular application to use HTTP. I'm using HTTP as an example because right now we're using it. If you're viewing this video, you're using HTTP and HTTPS. Well, threat actors love to manipulate the conversations in HTTPS. But there's millions of packets that occur in a typical HTTP, HTTPS session. Okay, just millions, right? How can you possibly sift through that as a human being? Even traditional machines have struggled to find that kind of information. Well, now with artificial intelligence, Robert is telling me, we can create machines that go through and look for this information and draw inferences. Inferences meaning that they can draw some conclusions, and then those conclusions get presented to human beings, where the human being goes, oh, I think that artificial intelligence is probably onto a false positive, kind of off track, or it's right on track. Okay, see, that way the human being is able to spend a lot more time on unique and crucial information rather than repetitive things. So he basically also said that they use model development and training to inference to create and validate molecules and biologics to attack disease targets. And that way they can create a medicine or a therapy much quicker, right? Well, it's the same sort of thing with cybersecurity, right? So they basically use this in so many ways, from sales to cybersecurity to actual research. Here's an example from Microsoft. Fairly recently at a Black Hat DEF CON presentation, Microsoft did a example of threat emulation. Threat emulation simply means the idea that we think that here's how a threat actor is going to come at us, right? So we can emulate that threat actor to see what kind of pivots they would take. Machine learning is quite good at saying, well, at looking at a particular threat, and you train it for that threat, and then it starts riffing on that threat and coming up with new changes or pivots, right? This idea of threat emulation, and here's a URL for it, it's very important to understand exactly how those pivots work. Well, one of the best ways that we've discovered over the last, I would say, 10 years is using artificial intelligence to understand how those threats work, how those threats morph, or how they pivot. So there's another example of how artificial intelligence is used. Another way that artificial intelligence is used is in the education space. And I'm talking specifically educating cybersecurity professionals. For example, there's a gentleman I know, Keiichi, in Japan. He's head of cybersecurity education at NTT. He decided to do several pretty creative things. He decided that in order to train his IT workers, he needed to institute what he calls 3-minute drills. And they're 3-minute drills every morning where they get some training. Well, these 3-minute drills are suggested through their AI-driven learning solutions. I find that interesting that he's using that as an educator, right? What's also interesting, he's taken kind of an old idea too, because I guess back in the day, in the 90s, 80s, and 90s in Japan, children, as they're growing up, as they would go into school every morning. They'd sit down in their desks in the classroom, and then they would be given 3-minute drills. So he's like, look, all the generation of the people that I work with, they're used to these 3-minute drills, or at least they remember them as kids. Now, what he's doing is he's taking kind of that old idea, combining with artificial intelligence, and he's improving an old idea, right? Because now the artificial intelligence is saying, most people seem to understand this concept, so don't repeat it. Here's some of the unique information. So I find that really cool. There are a lot of startups out there that are using artificial intelligence. For example, there's a company called Adept that got a bunch of money to basically learn how to use software better, right? That teach you. That's interesting enough. But I think another program that I think is kind of cool, I was talking to a gentleman named Matt Eisner. He works in the United States for the Department of Defense. And he's working on a program where he's basically expecting a lot of content to be submitted. And this content would be training programs and training courses. Well, there aren't enough people to go through that, one by one and evaluate it. He finds that he's using, experimenting with working on a platform that basically will do evaluation of that program. And he feels that the artificial intelligence will be able to go through 80% of that content in a fraction of the time it would take for you to read it. And the idea being, in a matter of just months, you could do something that would take years. So it's speeding things up. That's very good. In the military, there are strategic and tactical uses for artificial intelligence in the military. And what's fun about this is that these strategic and tactical uses of artificial intelligence, what they're doing is they're taking these old concepts that I mentioned, like democratization and miniaturization and virtualization, and really putting them to the road. Let me explain. In the military, everybody wants to make great decisions. You make a bad decision and people die. All right. So how can you in the field make great decisions? That's a question that I didn't make up. That's a question that has been posited for a long time, but it's really important in the military now, more than a weapon or a gun, right? Or some sort of tool or a bomb or whatever, a grenade. It's information that is winning the day or can lose the day. And what we're seeing in the military is practical uses of AI from a cybersecurity perspective to identify unexpected attacks. More and more, the military command and control, right, is based on information that comes from what people will call a data fabric. That's the term that's used, data fabric. Well, what's that? We're talking about the use of the cloud, for example, and all the services that you find in the cloud, and including something called data lakes. A data lake is where you capture just all this random and unstructured information and you put it up somewhere, right? And it's not just a storage bucket or a hard drive somewhere. It's a data lake. And the idea is that you get all that information out of there, and then using artificial intelligence, you can start teasing out information and looking for patterns. So it's this data analytics and the ability to monitor threats and to model them. It's very important. From a tactical perspective, we're seeing the ability to simulate combats and to use drones, not only to just recognize targets, but to use artificial intelligence to get much more granular information, to look through the information and to get very granular in a way that a human being can't do as quickly. So we're seeing with drones, but also during or after the battle with casualty care, we're seeing a lot of artificial intelligence that's speeding up the ability to diagnose a particular problem that a soldier might be having. So when it comes to working with artificial intelligence, here are a few insights that I want to show. This is a picture I took up at the top of the Tokyo Skytree. So first of all, you could argue that artificial intelligence is where you need to work with a new person who's kind of like neurodiverse. And I don't mean to trivialize the concept of autism or neurodiversity, but we have to work and play well with a new type of intelligence that's different than what we're used to. That's what artificial intelligence is. So where AI and machine learning leaves off and where humans take up is really that gap that we will need to investigate as cybersecurity workers. And this is where I was talking about this idea of the Socratic method. It's a dialogue where you ask questions and you get answers and you kind of have an upward spiral to a solution. And it's that conversation between humans or between machines and machine to human and vice versa that is going to be a very, very important nexus, a very important point. So Success when it comes to artificial intelligence and cybersecurity is a deeper investigation of how you work with your AI coworker. And we need practical models for understanding that interaction between human beings and cybersecurity and machine learning in regards to cybersecurity. So we're talking very practical kind of participation. So for example, Chris Cochran, he's a threat hunter, works for Huntress Labs. And there's also a lady named Kat Self. These are two people who work with AI all the time. And what they basically say, they both use this phrase, I like AI because it does the boring stuff and I can get to the unique information. So when it comes to the last mile, how are you, right, ready to get to that last mile? What mysteries keep you from being a source or a conduit of wisdom generated by AI, right? Where do you fit in with this 80-20 rule, meaning AI does the 80% and you focus on the 20? Do you have a skill set that can be automated easily? Because if you have, you need to move up and upskill, okay? When it comes to things like liability, think about it this way. Human beings, we have to accept the responsibility, okay, of certain decisions. You can't blame the AI, right? You can't throw Watson in jail, what I was calling Big Blue earlier. There are legal and ethical ramifications. And what we need are human beings to understand what it means to overcome the expected challenges of AI. And specifically, the challenges that we see are, well, people are worried about the cybersecurity risks of using AI. So you could argue, I've been talking about how AI helps you improve cybersecurity, but a lot of people are saying, well, actually, what happens if my AI gets hacked? What happens if somebody retrains it and influences it for the worse, right? So there are a lot of considerations there. And there are people who kind of mystify AI. They don't have insight into how AI makes decisions. So more and more, we need people who have the ability to anticipate those kinds of issues and do the proper kind of training for artificial intelligence. So there are a couple of myth conceptions I want to conclude with here. And I call them myth conceptions because they're mythologies, right? And we need to kind of get past them because they're misconceptions there. And some of these misconceptions include, well, if it comes from artificial intelligence, it must be correct. Well, that's not the case. If machine learning learns, right, that means it's always going to improve. Well, that's different. Learning something is different than improvement. It just is. We need human beings to help bring about that improvement. No one needs to train AI and machine learning. Well, actually, yeah, we need a lot of people to do that. People will say machine learning is around, 3 to 5 years from now. No, it's here right now and it's going to do really cool things. It's already doing cool things. People will think artificial intelligence is always going to replace a human being. Well, that's not necessarily the case. People also say that it will never replace human beings. Well, that's not the case either. It will if we don't improve ourselves. Some people will say there's no way to prepare students for applied learning or to apply for it. Oh, nonsense. There's tons of opportunity for that. Some people will think, oh, that bias, people will just fix it by themselves. No, we have to fix that bias. Some people say, well, AI is going to kill all cybersecurity jobs. That's not the case. Some people say it won't kill very many jobs. Oh, it could change quite a few jobs. And people will say, oh, it's going to be obvious where artificial intelligence is used in an organization. That's not the case. So let me show you some research that you can learn a little bit more about practical security and practical AI. First of all, we have the IT Industry Outlook. It's the IT Industry Outlook 2023. We offer these every year. So you can even go back in previous years and check out insights. And in here, you'll learn about very interesting uses of artificial intelligence. Where cybersecurity is. I realize it's 2023, but our State of Cybersecurity 2022 report is very forward thinking, and I think it would be very interesting for you to check that out. It came out, in November of last year, so it's only a few months old, really. At the end here, folks, I just want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to connecting with you because I'd love to talk to you more about insights about cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I want to thank you very much for your time spent with me as I've talked about some practical uses of AI, but also a little bit of history so that we can really understand where we're going to go in the future. So thank you very much for your time and all the best.
Thank you, James. That was most informative. I know everyone is looking forward to the Q&A session, so go ahead and start putting your questions into the questions panel. And while you do that, and now I'd like to give the presentation rights to Joby, our VP for Vendor Operations, to introduce our promotions and webinar-related courses.
Hi, everyone. This is Joby Verghese, Director for Vendor and Product here at Netcom Learning. Welcoming you all once again for this event, and we really appreciate you taking time off to be part of this webinar, which we had invited you for. I'm sure it was useful, and this will be helpful in your careers up ahead. So moving on, I will not take too much of your time. There are a few things which I want to share with all of you about Netcom Learning and what we bring to your, and wanted to bring few things to your attention which could be of benefit to you. So about Netcom, we are about 25 years old as an organization in the training space based in North America. And we've been doing business in terms of training delivery and other services across the world. We are a New York-based organization. Just to give you a glimpse of what we do and what we have achieved all this while in these years is that we've serviced more than 80% of Fortune 1000 organizations. 100 plus US military bases have been trained in under various technologies, right from security to cloud to other vendor specific programs from Microsoft, Cisco, AWS, and so on. Uh, 36,000 plus customers and 1 million plus professionals have been trained by Netcom Learning. So, I'm sure this gives you an idea of our capability in terms of what we could do, how we could add value to your career and in your journey to acquire more skills and knowledge. We are here, and we've been winning awards every year, and one of those significant award is from Microsoft, which we won again this year, and we are also awarded as top 20 training organizations by Training Industry. Our train instructor pool in terms of the number of instructors which we have is about 3,200, and it's growing every day and as we speak. So we have 96% of our customers recommend us to be for the training requirements. So that's about Netcom Learning. Moving on, the recording of this particular session is available. This slide deck will also be available in the handout section, so you can click and access the recording as well. Now, based on today's topic, we have few recommendations for you in terms of what courses you could take as far as AI and cybersecurity is concerned. So these are the 4 courses which we recommend, but this doesn't limit your choice. In case you have other courses in mind, we do have that as well. We would encourage you to visit our website to get the if you think you're interested in these courses, to enroll yourself and access the trainings as well. Apart from this, if you say that these are not the courses you're looking for, there's something else in your mind, we have more than 4,000 courses which Netcom Learning offers. So please do visit our website, and you can search for the course specifically which you're looking for. I'm sure we'll be able to assist you with that. And apart from this, there are other marketing assets. For example, we run free 1-hour training. So there are links available. We have on-demand trainings as well, again, at no cost to you. And then we do constantly write blogs, and many of these blogs are written by industry experts. And that is also available. We have a blog section on our website, and you could access that as well. So this is our recommendation as far as this particular webinar is concerned. Now, since you happen to be somebody who's interested or who is in the domain of security or cybersecurity, what we have done is we have created a security skilling program, because as you all know, there could be hundreds of courses which are available from various vendors. But what we have done is we have chosen the best and most in-demand courses, and we have created a security skilling program for you all. This contains courses from Microsoft, AWS, CompTIA, EC Council, and IEC2. And just in case you happen to be looking for any of these courses, I'm sure we have it in our repository. Please go ahead, please visit our website and see. You'll be able to find what you're looking for. This security skilling program, once you visit our page, you'll get to know that it is very easy, and we have tried to make it easier for you to plan your learning journey, so that you know that which level you are at right now and how you should proceed. So a learning plan and a learning path is defined in this, and this actually gives you the best in the world in terms of security, as far as the security training is concerned. So broadly, this is what our security skilling program is all about. Please do visit us and have a look at it. Now, security awareness, we all know you are in the security domain, and you know that security, the weakest point is the end user, and end user training in terms of security awareness is an essential part. In fact, many of this is mandated by the compliances you fall under. It could be ISO, it could be any other compliance system which you're part of. Cybersecurity awareness happens to be an important requirement as far as compliance is concerned. So we have a beautiful product. We have partnered with EC Council Aware, which offers a cybersecurity awareness training and phishing simulation solution. So if you say that you and your organization would want to have access to this particular solution, please do visit our website. We have a detailed dedicated page for that. You could request for a demo, and once you have a look at the demo, maybe if you're interested, we could take those conversations forward. Moving on, we also have a training product which we call it as Learning Passport. Under Passport, we have Savings Passport and Voucher Passport. So these are differentiated in terms of in terms of value, and voucher is in terms of number of days of training. So how does it help you? This is a prepaid product in which you and your organization can decide on your training budget, and you can decide which are the courses you're looking for. And we offer 4,000 plus courses as part of this passport. This is as I said, this is a prepaid product, but when you pay, we also add value to that upfront investment which you're making. Let us assume that you have a budget of $75,000 as training. So once you take that product, we increase the value by 60%, so that you are able to get additional 60% value. And this 175,000 is increased by additional 60%, and you will be able to consume that on as per the list price of the courses. You can select and choose and assign trainings which you want to give to your team members or within your organization. In terms of Voucher Passport, this works in a similar fashion, but the difference is that in terms of a course, here we look at the number of days of training. Again, this effectively costs you about less than $500 a day on a per day basis when you do this. And for the value, let's say you purchase pay $44,000 upfront. You get 100 days of training. Now, let's say that you have 10 members and you have chosen 10 members in your organization, and you've chosen 5 of them to go through a course which is 5 days. That is 25 days, and then you are left with 75 more days. And similarly, you can assign other courses to your other team members as well. So this is a product which is great value for money, because in comparison to the regular prices, this gives you so much more for the value which you're going to be paying to us. Netcom Plus is another product, and as sort of as a giveaway for being part of this particular event, we are going to be giving you a free subscription with more than 300 courses, which you will get access to once after the event. Within the next week or so, we will be giving you access to Netcom Plus. This is our subscription platform. And as I mentioned earlier, there are 300 plus courses which are available. Once you get in there, if you think that you like, and there are other offerings within this Netcom Plus subscription, but we have a subscription called Gold. We have another one called Platinum. Please do visit our website, and then you can get it. But no questions asked. Since you have been part of this event, we are going to be giving you a free subscription of Netcom Plus Silver. We do have some additional resources as well. As I said, we offer more than 4,000 courses. So any course or certification which you're looking for, please do visit our website, and I'm sure you'll find it there. We do run a lot of free virtual events, and I would encourage you to visit our event section. We do run masterclasses, webinars, and it could be of benefit to all of you. Please do visit that and take advantage of those events as well. And these are absolutely at no cost to you. Blogs, we do write blogs on various topics, especially focusing on technology, whatever is happening in the world, and whatever is the latest trends and the in thing which is happening in the technology space. We cover that in our blogs. So please do visit our blog section and make use of it for your benefit. Savings programs, we spoke about learning savings passport and also the voucher, and there are other promotions and discounts as well, which we run from time to time. So when you visit our website, you'll get more information about it. Our website is www.netcomlearning.com. Last but not the least, we would request you all, or rather encourage you all, to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And you will get regular updates as far as IT and business training is concerned, and what is Netcom doing. Of course, our website also is constantly updated, but this is something which will give you an instant information on what's happening at Netcom Learning. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being part of this webinar. We look forward to meeting you in another event. Thank you all.
Thanks so much for guiding us through that information, Jobby. And now we're going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. If you haven't yet, it's not too late to pop your questions into the question panel. And as we start our Q&A sessions, we're also going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us to know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register. first question we have up for today in the queue is there any specific industry which is more vulnerable to AI-based cyber attacks?
I think all of us are going to be susceptible, but here's two. First of all, there are certain industries, such as the healthcare industry, because of the technologies that they have, it's hard to update them. And I'm talking about technologies from heart monitors to X-ray machines and things. The healthcare industry has always fallen susceptible to a lot of attacks, specifically ransomware. And that's one industry that could have a real problem because AI is pretty good at identifying those pivots I was mentioning earlier. Another one that could, I'll call it an industry in the government, in the military, because you have a lot of AI-driven attack approaches and attack models that are really quite sophisticated. And so I would say that from the healthcare to military would be two that I would be concerned about.
And Samuel has a question and would like to know, as a cybersecurity aspirant or a professional, which CompTIA course should I take in order to be ready for AI as a cybersecurity professional?
Geez, that's a great question. First of all, Security Plus is definitely what I call the gateway into understanding all elements of security. Quick point. If you're not ready for Security Plus or that level, if you still need to learn about how endpoints work or how networks work, maybe before Security Plus, there are areas there. Other things, especially CYSA Plus, CompTIA CYSA Plus would be an excellent one to look into because it teaches you that analytics side of things. That's very important and where AI is spending a lot of time. Pentest Plus could also be useful because it helps you understand the attack models that are out there, the MITRE attack model, and how that works.
And let's take another question. How can we ensure accountability in AI-driven security systems? And how do we ensure responsible use of AI technology?
When it comes to responsibility, it's all about, we're talking kind of governance, and we're talking about the maturity of the processes that your organization has. So if your organization is the military or a finance company or a bank, the responsibility of that, you can't just blame AI, right? That's like, blaming the child for bad behavior in a sense when it's really the parent that's not training properly, right? So the best way to be responsible for that is to have a good governance structure and to mature your organization's processes.
And looks like we have time to take another question. Can you provide insights on the role of AI in defending against social engineering attacks and phishing attempts?
Couple of different ways. First of all, I've seen AI do a really good job in various tools and products out there, fake phishing kind of products. Many of those products are AI driven. So from an education perspective, I've seen AI work very well. In social engineering, to actually combat it actually happening, we're seeing some really good products out there that are using artificial intelligence in the same way that spam filters use it, right? They're actually using that to identify threat acting behavior very well from a human interaction perspective. So education and other areas.
Last question of the day is, what are the main challenges and limitations in using AI for cybersecurity and how can they be addressed?
First of all, I think one of the main challenges is there's a lot of disagreement as to where AI can be used. I was recently talking to a large insurance company, and they were saying, well, when it comes to incident response, AI is not useful for us. I was recently talking to a military in Europe where they were talking about using AI in incident response. So my point is, I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong. But the biggest challenge is basically making sure that you have enough situational awareness of your own processes, then you can bring in AI where it makes sense.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.